In the year 108, a stonemason in the north of England carved 4 letters into a slab of limestone, Leg Roman 9. It was a routine inscription, the kind of thing Roman legions left behind everywhere they went. No one at the time thought it mattered. No one could have known it would become the last confirmed trace in the entire Roman world of one of the empire's most famous fighting units. 5,000 men gone. Not defeated in a battle anyone recorded. Not disbanded in any surviving document, just gone. And for nearly 2,000 years, one story has dominated how we explain it, that they marched into the mists of Scotland and were swallowed whole. But that story may be wrong. And the real answer might be far stranger, not a mystery of blood and battle, but a mystery of silence. Because Rome, an empire that documented everything, down to soldiers' pay and boot repairs, seems to have gone out of its way to erase this legion from the record. The question isn't just where they died. It's why an empire that never forgot anything chose to forget them. 5,000 Roman soldiers vanished. The evidence Rome hid the legion to. Understand why this disappearance is so strange. You have to understand what the 9th Legion actually was. This wasn't some minor garrison unit. Legio Roman 9 Hispana was one of Rome's oldest and most battle-hardened formations, likely raised in the 60s BCE, decades before an emperor even existed. It served under Julius Caesar himself in the Gallic Wars, and later fought in Caesar's civil war against Pompey. It marched with Augustus in Spain. By the time of Emperor Claudius, this legion had already survived a century of Rome's bloodiest campaigns. In 43 C, the 9th was one of just 4 legions chosen for the invasion of Britain, arguably the most ambitious military operation of Claudius's reign. These were not raw recruits. They were veterans, trusted with opening an entirely new frontier of empire. And they were nearly destroyed almost immediately. In 60 or 61 C, Britain erupted. Queen Boudicca of the Iceni tribe led a revolt that burned 3 Roman cities to the ground. When the 9th's commander, Petilius Cerealis, marched his infantry to relieve the besieged colony of Camulodunum, the Britons ambushed them and cut the column to pieces. Only Cerealis and his cavalry escaped alive. Later historians, drawing on the Roman writer Tacitus's account, would come to call it simply the massacre of the 9th. It should have ended there. Instead, Rome rebuilt it. Fresh troops from the German provinces refilled its ranks, and within a few years the legion was back at full strength, based at a new fortress in Lincoln. This was a unit that Rome considered worth saving, worth investing in, again and again. By the 70s CE, the 9th had moved to a permanent home, a great fortress at Eboracum, what we now call York in the north of England. And from there, it did what Roman legions did. It kept fighting, kept expanding the frontier, and kept leaving behind the kind of paper trail that makes ancient history possible to reconstruct at all. Tile stamps, altar inscriptions, building records. For over a century, the 9th Legion is one of the best documented military units in the ancient world. Which is exactly what makes what happens next so unsettling. The silence in 83 or 84 C. Elements of the 9th marched deep into Caledonia, modern Scotland, under the General Agricola, taking part in the decisive Roman victory at the Battle of Mons Gropius. The frontier held. Rome's grip on Britain looked secure. Then slowly, the evidence starts to thin. The last confirmed inscription bearing the legion's name comes from York, dated to 108 CE. After that, nothing. No further building records. No transfer orders. No casualty reports. No triumphal announcements. In an empire whose bureaucracy tracked soldiers' boot allowances, the sudden silence around an entire legion is almost impossible to explain through negligence alone. For centuries, historians filled that silence with one dramatic and appealing story. The Ninth Legion marched north into the unconquered highlands of Caledonia and was annihilated by tribes Rome never managed to subdue. It's a compelling narrative, a Roman superpower humbled by barbarians at the edge of the map. It inspired novels. It inspired the 2011 film The Eagle. It's the version most people have heard. But when you actually look for the evidence, it isn't there. Archaeologists have found no mass grave, no battlefield, no burned fortress at York consistent with a legion being wiped out in disgrace. If Rome lost 5,000 soldiers in a single catastrophic defeat, you would expect it to leave scars in the archaeological record the way Boudiccan Revolt did, or the way the disaster at the Teutoburg Forest did in Germany decades earlier. Those events left ash layers, weapons, mass burials, a story written in the ground. The Ninth Legion left nothing like that at all, which raises an uncomfortable possibility. What if the Ninth wasn't destroyed in Britain at all? The Nijmegen Clue, roughly 1,000 kilometers from York, on the banks of the Rhine in what is now the Netherlands, archaeologists excavating the site of Nijmegen, the Roman settlement of Novi Amegas, found something that complicates the entire Lost in Scotland story. Tile stamps and inscriptions bearing the Ninth Legion's name, dating to sometime after 104 CE, with some evidence pointing past 120 CE. That timing matters enormously. If accurate, it means at least part of the Ninth Legion was alive, active, and stationed on the European continent, after the point historians once assumed it had already been massacred in Britain. Some scholars now believe the Legion, or a significant detachment of it, was transferred away from Britain entirely, redeployed to guard the Rhine frontier, one of the most volatile borders in the entire empire. And there's more. Two of the Legion's known tribunes went on to have long, distinguished careers well after 120 CE. Hardly the outcome you'd expect for officers whose unit had just been annihilated in a humiliating defeat. Rome was not shy about publicly punishing failure. If the Ninth had truly been wiped out in disgrace, its surviving officers would likely have been marked by that disgrace too. So if they didn't die in Scotland, where did they go? The honest answer is, we don't fully know. Some historians point toward the eastern frontier, the endless, grinding wars against Parthia. The historian Cassius Dio records a Roman legion annihilated by Parthian forces at a place called Elegeia, around 161 CE, decades after the Ninth's last confirmed appearance in Britain. It's tempting to connect the dots, but there's no inscription, no artifact, no document that explicitly names the Ninth as that lost legion. It's a plausible theory, not a proven one. Other historians propose Judea, tied to the brutal Bar Kokhba revolt of the 130s. But again, direct evidence linking the Ninth to that campaign simply doesn't exist. What we're left with isn't a single confirmed answer. It's something more interesting, proof that the story most people have heard, one dramatic last stand in the Scottish mist, almost certainly isn't the real ending. The truth is messier, quieter, and stretched across an empire, not confined to a single battlefield. Why the silence so wide? Does it feel like Rome erased them? Not because of some conspiracy, but because of how the empire's record-keeping actually worked. Roman administrative archives, the day-to-day logs, transfer orders, and pay records that would have tracked exactly what happened to the Ninth, were kept on perishable materials, papyrus, wax, wood. Almost none of it survived nearly 2,000 years of decay, fire, and war. What we have left is a patchwork: durable stone inscriptions, the occasional surviving text from historians like Tacitus and Cassius Dio, and whatever archaeology happens to unearth. In other words, the Ninth Legion probably wasn't erased on purpose. It simply fell into the gaps of what history chose to preserve, and those gaps are exactly where myths grow. A dramatic story about a doomed legion vanishing into the highlands is more memorable and more tellable than the true, unglamorous likelihood that the unit was gradually redistributed, folded into other commands, and quietly stopped existing as a distinct legion somewhere far from Britain, its final chapter never written down in anything that survived. The Ninth Legion's real story isn't a mystery of monsters or ambushes in the fog. It's a mystery about how fragile even the most powerful empire's memory can be. Rome conquered most of the known world and documented almost every part of it, and it still couldn't guarantee that 5,000 of its own soldiers would be remembered. Maybe that's the more unsettling ending. Not that they were annihilated in some hidden massacre, but that they simply faded, reassigned, scattered, absorbed into other units, until nobody thought to write down what happened to them at all. Somewhere between York and the Rhine, and possibly far beyond, the story of the Ninth Legion still waits for its final chapter.